Hi there and welcome to the woods. On today's video we're going to be asking what exactly can a DIY e-bike do? Are they suitable for off-road riding? So a comparison then of three very different home build breeds. Oh my god! I mean, probably not going to win a World Cup downhill race, but nevertheless, great fun! So powerful, so powerful. Three DIY e-bike builds then. Now they all differ in their price, their power and their construction. Now these two here, we have two hub drive. We've got a rear hub drive and a front hub drive. And the third bike is actually an off-the-shelf e-mountain bike, but we've retrofitted a new hub drive on the back. Now, we're not pretending that these are state-of-the-art e-mountain bikes, but nevertheless, that does not mean to say you can't have some fun in the woods and the hills on a very simple e-mountain bike build. Now, these two bikes here actually started off life as mountain bikes of 1990s vintage. This one cost £75 on eBay for the frame and the wheels, well, the complete bike. And this one was I think this was a Decathlon special, which is Ray's bike, which cost £120. Now what we've done, we've actually retrofitted the hub drive and the battery and the controller to both bikes. So like I said, this is a rear hub drive, this one is a front hub drive. But having had a quick spin on both these bikes, I can tell you they are super good fun. So what we're going to do now is have a look at the detail and the performance of all these three bikes off-road. Now, each of the bikes that we're riding today have cost us less than £500. And when it comes to the type of terrain that these bikes are suited for, I would say that this is a good example of the type of off-road track. Now, it's got a slight incline, there's some good grippy stone surface there, and nothing too technical. Yes, you could probably get into some more involved terrain, but I think this really does typify the kind of place these bikes are suited for. Plus, of course, tarmac roads and smoother fire roads. Now, this bike is a Trek single track. As I mentioned, I think it's on a 91 plate. It's got 24 gears, 8 on the back and 3 in the front. It's got 26-inch wheels, a chromoly frame and V-brakes. Now, the motor on this cost £175 for the rear hub drive. It comes with the hub, with the wheel, with the tyre complete. It's got a controller and it's also got a battery. Now, the battery, which is possibly the most expensive part of these DIY builds, costs £250 in this instance. And Ray, the maestro himself, Ray Cook, who's put these bikes together, has put this controller mounted on the handlebars. Wow, the acceleration, I'm already, oh my god! So we're now going from tarmac to single track. But as you can see, this off-road riding doesn't faze these bikes whatsoever. I mean, probably not going to win a World Cup downhill race, but nevertheless, great fun. Oh my god. So powerful, so powerful. It does actually have a couple of glitches on occasions though. I think Ray called them brownouts. Wow. This bike has got some serious power. But I want to point out a couple of things about this bike. It's actually the heaviest by far. And I think if you got it in your head you want to take this bike to a location, then there is no way that you're going to be putting this bike on top of a bike rack on the top of your car. Certainly not on the top of your car, and possibly not on your bike rack as well, because a lot of bike racks are limited in the weight that they carry. But nevertheless, the power on that bike is ridiculous. I want to talk about one more thing as well, is on all these bikes you've got a controller up here which you can change the amount of power. So this bike has actually got a load of power modes, from the lowest, which is a kind of eco setting, up to the boost high power mode, which gives you a load of support when you're attacking those steep climbs. These little displays here are things that Ray's made. He's got his own watt meter, so if you're interested, it'll tell you how much watts the bike is kicking out, how many watts you're kicking out. It can actually tell you anything. So even though it's £500, it's actually really sophisticated. So I'm now taking the trek possibly way above what it was meant to do. Now, pretty rough ground, quite steep ground, quite technical, but still, it gets up there. This time, folks, it's the Carrera Subway, the 1.3 limited version. It's an aluminium frame, it's got 26-inch wheels, V brakes again, and this time 21 gears. I think she's on a 92 plate, so a little bit newer. Now, the motor on this is actually a front hub drive. It's slightly less power, it's a little bit lighter, and it's a little bit easier to fit. As you can see, there's a battery on the back here, which is pretty neat because you can actually fit some panniers over the back, but it's super slimline. Okay, I guess when you're talking slimline, you cannot really compare a DIY bike like this against an off-the-shelf modern e-mountain bike, which might cost you £3,000 to £4,000 or more. But nevertheless, when it comes to your experience off-road, if you've never been off-road before, I can assure you that a DIY kit like this is a far more pleasurable experience than a traditional mountain bike. Now, this is now the front hub drive bike, and many people say that these simply aren't capable off-road, but I can tell you what, there's nothing wrong with this puppy. I'm a bit worried this is where the front hub drive will come unstuck or spin out, but as you can see, absolute dream. Making light work of that. You know what, I'm beginning to love the challenge of these little DIY bikes. It's actually great fun. Ooh. Folks, let's face it, hills are a monumental barrier to your entry into the sport of mountain biking. But on a little bike like this, as I said, sub £500, you can still choose to go in high power mode and make light work of those hills. Or if you want more of a workout, go into the lower power mode. So, an e-mountain bike, don't be scared of them, because ultimately it's still up to you how much effort you put into the ride. Now this, folks, is a bike which actually the man who put all these DIY bikes together, Ray Cook, fondly describes as the Mule. Now, the origins of this bike are a £350 off-the-shelf budget e-mountain bike, which I haggled over a rather suspect back street in the Midlands. What we've done is we've actually removed the rear wheel and put in a custom rear hub drive on there. Ray's fitted some rather neat controllers and devices and gadgets up there. Obviously, he's put his own felt on the down tube and the top tube. He's got a toolbox in there. But ultimately, we've got a £350 bike, and we've bolted on a £150 rear hub drive kit there. So, the Mule. Now this time, definitely feels a bit more refined than the direct drive on the Trek bike. It's also a little bit quieter as well. Now, I've actually taken this bike up one of Britain's biggest mountains, and I can assure you that this little track here is well within its capabilities. Now downhill, now I'm going to stop because this is one of the reasons why I think you need to be super careful when you're buying a bike which is not really made for off-road use. Now, Jasmine, my daughter, behind the camera, just pointed out that the front wheel is actually coming loose. I mean, you can see that. That is absolutely horrendous. And also, one thing I noticed when we went up Snowdon, one of Britain's highest mountains, is that fork is actually more of a hindrance than actually giving you added control. So even though you might get some knickknacks on these bikes, such as discs or suspension, the quality very often doesn't equate to very good performance. So what's the conclusion then? Well, honestly guys, I think 3 massively capable e-mountain bikes which you can take into a range of situations. But there's a few things which I think you really need to tune into before you embark on getting one of these bikes, or actually try to build one of these bikes yourself. And that's the first point actually, is that if you've not really got the technical know-how, I'd recommend you don't actually tackle building one of these bikes. You do need to have a little bit of electronic or electrical knowledge to put one together. Having said that, they do come with instructions which are pretty straightforward, but if you're in doubt, maybe either get someone to build one for you, or maybe look at an off-the-shelf bike. Now, the second point is around about the donor bike. So obviously this bike was an off-the-shelf e-bike, which is 350 quid, but we did have to upgrade it, and we actually still continue need to upgrade it to take it into the type of places we want to. But these 2 bikes here, £75 off eBay. It's got V brakes and it's got 26-inch wheels. I think that on the type of terrain we've been riding, it's fine. But should you want to go into more serious off-road riding, you should be looking at maybe larger volume tires to get a comfier ride, maybe some suspension forks. Will that bike be able to take suspension forks? I don't think so. And also disc brakes, because with the added weight of e-bikes, you really do need to get some added brake power. Other than that, I think it's all pretty straightforward really. I think one thing maybe you should think about is actually the type of riding that you think you might be doing in the future, because you know, you might want to go into some more technical terrain, and in that instance maybe it's a great introduction bike, but definitely an off-the-shelf bike. You can get hub drives which begin at around about £750 from the likes of Decathlon or Halfords, and they'll certainly built for purpose. And then if you want to get into the more serious terrain, you need to be looking to go from a hub drive bike to a mid-drive bike, but that's a whole new subject altogether. But we've got a load of videos on the channel which tackle that subject.